With the introduction of Universe 11's mightiest mortal Jiren in Dragon Ball Super's Tournament of Power, we've been blessed with the opportunity to witness what Jiren can do when the odds such as Goku, Vegeta, Frieza, and many of the warriors of Universe 7 are stacked against him and what he can do, as did with the recent events of Merge Zamasu, an arc prior to Jiren's introduction, and being able to witness a god fall from grace in his quest of enforcing his own vision in what he deems and wants to establish as his perfect utopia and his goal of absolute annihilation and the eradication of all mortals in the multiverse. But the million-dollar question is, who would survive if the strongest mortal of Universe 11, Jiren, faced off against the supreme god killer known as Merge Zamasu in an all-out death battle? And on today's video, we're going to be diving in-depth and further analyzing, dissecting, and breaking down the battle between Jiren and Merge Zamasu and seeing what each character has to offer and bring to the table, along with what the end result might be if these two legendary warriors went one-on-one. So hold on to your seats, because we're about to experience a holy battle the likes in which you've never seen before, next. If you are a passionate fan and want to share your love for Dragon Ball, don't forget to go on ahead and punch that subscribe button and enable all notifications by clicking that bell icon. That way you guys can be notified whenever a brand new Dragon Ball video is posted onto this channel and sent directly on your devices in connections to news, information, updates, discussions, theories, and spoilers to be up to date with all the latest in Dragon Ball news. Hashtag Dragon Ball Squad. Thank you so much for your support, and without wasting any more time, let's begin. Both Merge Zamasu and Jiren are no strangers within the Dragon Ball community, as both characters have presented unique feats in Dragon Ball Super that puts them both on a very high pedestal in what they can do in the show. But the real question is, what would have ultimately happened if Merge Zamasu came across Jiren? To kick things off, having to look at Merge Zamasu's history, Merge Zamasu had made his debut in Dragon Ball Super episode 64, with his opponents having to be Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks, with his duration having to last from Dragon Ball Super episode 64 all the way through Dragon Ball Super episode 67, as Merge Zamasu had met his end by the hands of Zeno and having to be erased, in which unquestionably presents the idea that Merge Zamasu was indeed a worthy adversary to both Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks, as Merge Zamasu not only was able to take on Super Saiyan Blue Goku, Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, and Super Saiyan Rage Trunks, but also managed to stand toe-to-toe against Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, and even going as far enough in surviving Super Saiyan Blue Vegito's final Kamehameha, which is a very impressive feat in and of itself, which he himself had served his purpose in requiring the King of All to show up and erasing him from existence. But when having to go back and looking at Jiren had made his debut in the Dragon Ball Super Tournament of Power arc, with his opponents having to be 70 other fighters, in which spread from various universes having to compete in a multi-universal Tournament of Power battle, in which till this very day Jiren's duration in the Tournament of Power has lasted from Dragon Ball Super episode 97 until this very current point in time as you're watching this video, as Jiren had displayed feats never before seen in Dragon Ball Super, and having to not only counter a spirit bomb and condensing it in the form of a massive black hole, but also being able to speed blitz Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 20 Goku by only using his eyes. And simply having to put Jiren had displayed feats that puts him even above a god of destruction when referencing power, and being the strongest mortal in which not even a god of destruction can defeat. Now Emish, welcome back onto the channel, as I do want to go on ahead and discuss Jiren versus Merge Zamasu, to the point where I do believe that when referencing Jiren having to go toe-to-toe against Merge Zamasu when it comes to their physical forms, it's unquestionable that I believe Jiren can easily, without question, be able to destroy Merge Zamasu's body. But that's not going to be the main focus on this video. The main focus is how is Jiren going to fare up against a universal Zamasu, a Zamasu that's been able to spread his essence all throughout the universe and literally having to affect multiple timelines. Now what I wanted to ask you is, where do you see Jiren in comparison to Merge Zamasu when it comes to power, speed, durability, even having to factor in Zamasu's immortality, as it was unheard of in seeing Merge Zamasu not only tank a final Kamehameha by a Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, but also emerge unscathed. So having to look at the way Trunks had gathered up the energy of a few people on Earth and cutting down and destroying Zamasu's physical body, what I wanted to ask you is, what are the odds and what would be the overall outcome if Jiren were to battle against Zamasu? To me, I think it's Owarida. I think that Jiren definitely would be able to destroy Zamasu's body, very similar to how Super Saiyan Rage Trunks did with the Spirit Sword. However, I'm a little unsure as to how Jiren would fare up against a Zamasu that was spreading his essence all throughout the universe. Because having to look at it from an objective point of view, Jiren isn't really fighting someone in a physical-like format, but instead he's fighting the spiritual presence of a being that just cannot die. So what are your overall thoughts on having to witness Jiren versus Zamasu, and what do you believe would be the outcome if these two were to battle?
Alright, so first and foremost, the easiest question to answer is yes, Jiren will absolutely decimate Zamasu's body. He wasn't even fully immortal, he was only half immortal.
Right.
So with that, that's okay. So that's question one. That's the second question out the way. That's done. The first question I would say, as far as like Jiren power-wise, standing next to Zamasu after seeing what Zamasu did to Trunks, did to Vegeta, who was stronger this time around, did to Goku, who was still the same Goku when he first got beat up by Goku Black and Super Saiyan Rose, etc., and by Zamasu as well. Jiren still stomps. There's literally nothing to talk about when it comes to the actual power scale, I would say. The feats are a completely different case though, because I think the reason I say this is because that entire arc was very inconsistent with the way it portrayed how our heroes were able to even oppose Zamasu to begin with.
Right.
Because now what you have is that originally we had base Goku Black, who intentionally fought Goku as a Super Saiyan 2, right? He fought Super Saiyan 2 Goku, not really wanting to rush the fight. He knew that he had to fight him for X amount of time so he can, you know, adapt to his body and all this other junk, right?
Learning,
no problem. Yeah. Exactly. So, and the longer he fought him, the more he learned and the stronger that he got. His ki always increased, and that was noted numerous times before.
Yes.
And then basically X amounts of time, basically not that much time goes by. Like not even hyperbolic timber chain time goes by. And, you know, Goku Black goes back to his timeline, in Future Trunks' timeline, damaged. He's on the floor, he's just sitting there and all this other stuff, but he's happy. He's like, this pain will make me stronger. Next thing we know, we come back and we see base Goku Black tanking Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta completely.
With complete ease, yep.
Yeah, like there's no difficulty there, and it's just like what's going on right now. And all of us knew at that moment. That's when Vegeta realized that he effed up. Advertiser from the channel. Yeah. So yeah, so with that, it's kind of like, well, okay, that was one inconsistency as to where Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta got out tanked by base Goku Black, then got stabbed by Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black. But then we have Goku and Super Saiyan 2 Trunks taking a Kamehameha wave, charged up by the way, by Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black, and Future Trunks is like not even on the verge of death. So it's like, okay. And then, like I said, there's been many instances, even for example, let's fast forward to when Trunks unlocked his Super Saiyan Race transformation, okay? He was able to hold off Goku Black and Zamasu on his own ordinary there. It's kind of expected after you give someone a new transformation, right?
Right.
But fast forward even more, just before we saw the Genki Dama Spirit Sword, Trunks restores his sword with his own power, right? And then he's able to swap hands with enraged Zamasu, which was a real head scratcher. And then on top of that, you rewind a little bit, we see Goku's Kamehameha wave actually push back Zamasu out of the gate, basically after the fusion, his Holy Wrath attack, and he actually pierces it and like burns away half of his body, that being the Goku Black side. Yeah, he destroyed the Ring of Light too after using Kaioken. So, and after using Kaioken, he destroyed the Ring of Light. But more so, I think something to consider here is that Goku, after piercing the Holy Wrath, wiped away half of Zamasu's body, and then the blast hits him. If I remember correctly, the blast hits him, and then like Zamasu is just like, oh my god, what happened? He's just like, you know, dumbfounded, like what just happened right now?
Calling upon the Lightning of Absolution to strike him down and making him more powerful.
And then it was just all over the place at that point. This is a Goku who was weaker than Vegeta, and who couldn't even fight Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black to begin with, but now he's holding his own against Zamasu. So when you look at it from a power scaling standpoint, we've only seen Jiren like twice so far, in like an actual fight. That being his fight with Goku, and that being his fight with Hit. With that, you have to consider, and there's nothing else that, I'm sorry, Zamasu won't hold the candles to Ultra Instinct, imperfect Ultra Instinct Goku, like the 1 hour special Ultra Instinct Goku. No, he's not going to do it.
I completely agree. On top of that, I agree.
And with that, Jiren holding his own with that, and barely taking damage from him, I mean, if not any whatsoever, and clearly being able to dodge Goku's attacks, even despite him evolving as he was fighting Jiren, to continue to fight Jiren to begin with. Power scaling wise, Jiren takes it. No, there's just no difficulty here. Now, when you talk about, and then yes, he can decimate his body completely. If a sword was able to cut Zamasu in half, and then you have Vegito, another inconsistency, a final Kamehameha wave did not eradicate Zamasu's body, but a sword cut him in half completely.
Exactly, and that's where some people might be, you know, a bit torn in the fact that, you know, Super Saiyan Blue Vegito's final Kamehameha didn't do anything. It didn't even pierce Zamasu's body. He emerged from the dust saying, "This is what a true god is," but then he gets destroyed via a spirit sword by the energy of a few people on Earth.
Yeah.
It was an inconsistency, but I guess me and you can agree on the idea that Jiren can just wipe out Zamasu's body with no question, right?
Right.
Okay,
but,
so
yeah, I agree.
When looking at that, what I wanted to ask you, and this is the tricky part because they required Zeno for this. When looking at Celestial Zamasu and seeing his essence be spread all throughout the universe and affecting different timelines, how do you think Jiren would be able to fare up against Zamasu then? Because we're not talking about a singular being that's, you know, manifesting in one body. It's just his essence, it's his spirit all throughout the universe. And my question to you is, do you think that Jiren would have enough power, or, you know, essentially have the ability to prevent Zamasu from spreading his essence throughout the universe? Because Zeno, what was required from Zeno was they needed to wipe out the entire universe, the entire timeline, for Zamasu to be gone. And it's without question that Jiren possesses abilities that far supersede Merge Zamasu, far supersede anybody that we've seen in Dragon Ball thus far, minus the Omni King. So my question to you is, how do you think Jiren would fare up against a Celestial Zamasu spreading his essence all throughout the universe? Do you think that Jiren will be able to possess enough power to completely vanquish the spirit? Or do you think that it would kind of be at a stalemate, considering that he just can't die? His spirit would always be there. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, before I answer that, just one thing I want to note. It should be noted that the Genki Dama Spirit Sword, basically, we know, I'm very well aware that Genki itself scales exponentially higher than your average key source of energy. So just for those of you guys who are going to tell me that in the comment section, I'm very well aware of that. So, but even with like 50 like little kids or little earthlings energy, and the Genki of Goku and Vegeta, despite how strong they are, it's still questionable as to how Trunks, with his own power, let alone the power derived from 50 Earthlings that Goku and Vegeta, was able to just casually handle Merge Zamasu, as to where a charged up final Kamehameha could not even leave a dent in Merge Zamasu. But like I said, that's all plot induced. That's just something else to consider. Now with Jiren, here's where things get tricky. My word isn't law, okay? But I'm gonna, based on what I know, Super Saiyan Blue Goku has showcased feats that put him on a 4D scale. There's no denying that. Especially now, Ultra Instinct Goku, there's no denying that. Jiren has also showcased feats to very well put him on that tier as well. And I don't want to, you know, to get into the whole dimensional tiering kind of concept, but that's how strong they are. Now Bird Zamasu, Astral Zamasu, despite Goku showcasing 4D feats, despite Jiren showcasing 4D feats, Goku's probably a good example of this. The thing is, I remember where some power scales actually on Twitter, people who are like in the power scaling community, or people who just like to know about how strong characters are. I don't know what writer it was, but they kind of like tweeted at them and stuff like that. Well, you know, saying that Goku is this strong, how come he can't do this? He should be universal level, blah blah blah. And essentially, what we got from this reply in terms of like the Twitter tweets was that even if Goku could do it, he would never do it. And that's just the anime style of writing when it comes to, despite them showcasing all of these feats, they would never actually do it nor be able to in the actual show. For example, Battle of Gods, we got Goku fighting Beerus with universal punches alone, but after that, we never saw a fight like that of this magnitude again. We got Super Saiyan Blue Goku, which is exponentially stronger than Super Saiyan God Goku, but do we see him throwing punches that were literally shattering the universe? Absolutely not. We didn't see that with Vegito, powered up. Did he shake an infinite world of nothingness? Did he shake the entire universe, the entire that void, or wherever they were, where they were fighting?
The complexity of the universe. No, he did not.
Yeah,
you're right.
No, but Jiren
did just by simply walking.
And exactly, but just by blinking and flexing, and Ultra Instinct Goku did the very same thing. This is where there's a significant difference and a power gap between the feats of what these characters are capable of. So with that, I would say that the only way I would probably have to like kind of give anybody any kind of credit is if you guys want to consider the manga, for example. We know Goku in the manga was showcased to use Hakai, but they did not do anything of the sort in the anime. despite Jiren once again showcasing these feats, can he and would he actually be able to destroy Astral Zamasu, who was infinitely expanding throughout the universe? And that's where the major thing comes into play, where he was infinitely becoming the universe and literally taking over anything. And it should also be noted that basically Astral Zamasu taking over another timeline isn't necessarily a feat. The only way he was able to do that, only reason he was able to do that, is because we know that when Trunks travels between these two worlds, it leaves like a little bit of a rift, which explains why Goku Black was able to travel back to the past with the time ring, even though he's not originally able to do that. The time ring doesn't allow you to travel back to the past. It only allows you to travel to the future X amount of time. So we know that the time machine leaves like a little bit of a tether between the two worlds, and that explains why Zamasu was able to actually more or less showcase his face in the present timeline, and that's actually the same actual location where the time machine took off anyway.
Right.
So with that, so even with that, so that's not necessarily a feat. I don't think anybody other than Zeno would be able to do this, to be able to take out Astral Zamasu.
So you don't think Jiren would be able to do it, in your opinion, and not even with the slightest ability?
Well, that's the thing. We haven't seen.
It's tricky.
Well, that's no. We've only seen him power-wise. We've only seen him fight.
Yeah.
We haven't seen an ability that puts him on a tier where he says, listen, I can erase anything that I want to. Like, that's completely different. You being able to erase anything, not with no limit to whatever it is a completely different tier of power than you having your own offset or out of the gate access to power. That this is Jiren as a fighter, this is Jiren having access to his strength. We're not talking about Hakai. We're not talking about Zeno's ability to erase anything that he wants to in the blink of an eye.
Yes.
This dude erased 6 universes in an instant.
Just because he was in a bad mood. You're absolutely right.
But is Zeno as strong as Jiren? Absolutely not. In terms of physical power, he's absolutely not. He's not a fighter. He doesn't fight. He doesn't have to. So this is where position of power becomes another question. So I think that I think that Jiren, like I said, my word isn't law. You guys can ask other YouTubers, like the big YouTubers who may have covered this as well. But in my opinion, I would say that nobody can actually erase. Like that's what comes down to. Defeat Astral Zamasu, you have to get rid of him completely. So with that, I would say that no, Jiren, not even Jiren can do it. It would require someone who is capable of erasing something of that magnitude, that being Zeno, and it's only fitting. It's only fitting. So, but at the same time, I will also say that I don't think Astral Zamasu can actually destroy Jiren either.
I don't think so either, because those blasts, although significant to Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks' body, I don't think that they're strong enough to... Well, I think that they could kill you, but with enough force. But I don't think with Jiren's character, having to see what he's capable of, and all the, stuff he took against Goku and hid, I don't think that it would do any damage, at all either. But it's interesting that you say that, because when specifying and talking about Zamasu as a singular entity with his body intact, I think it's agreeable to a lot of people that Jiren would be able to rip him apart. When talking about his astral form, that's what's interesting, because that spans, it spreads throughout the entire universe, and it doesn't really have an end. How influential do you think Jiren would be if he fought against Zamasu in the manga? Meaning, if he was able to destroy, one Zamasu, and Zamasu having to clone himself over and over and over again, how would you see that scenario playing out? Whereas Jiren's not just fighting one Zamasu, he's fighting perhaps thousands.
The manga is completely different now because Goku used Hakai and it worked. Right. So I would have to just by default kind of give Jiren the benefit of the doubt to assume that he may be potentially able to do the same thing, only because we saw Goku do it with no training whatsoever, really. Right. All he did was, it was just insinuated that maybe he saw Beerus do it one time and he just borrowed his technique and just did it and just started Hakaiing Zamasu. So, and this isn't even Master Super Saiyan Blue Goku. So it's like, okay, so Jiren technically should be able to do it, right? Maybe even Toppo, you know what I'm saying? So that's what it comes down to. But don't quote me on that. It's just food for thought, really. But I think we're back to square one, where Zamasu was infinitely multiplying. Instead of expanding at this point, he was multiplying. But he wasn't the universe, though.
No, he was not.
The anime Astral Zamasu becoming the universe, I might have to retract what I said as to where Zamasu might not be able to beat Jiren. I think Astral Zamasu, because of his tiering, and this may sound a little weird to you guys, but just when you're in a physical body, just because you have a certain just because you showcase feats that put you on a certain dimensional tier, for example, Goku showcasing multiple feats to be on a 4D tier, right, in terms of power, doesn't necessarily mean that you're also capable of actually going up against something that requires you to output more than that, right? So because now to destroy something that's 4D, you should technically have to be exponentially stronger than someone who is 4D to begin with. You should not have to be equal to them. And this is where it comes down to Goku being able to destroy an entire universe, or an infinitely expanding Zamasu who has no physical body to destroy anyway. That's what it comes down to. It doesn't come down to how much power you have, to whether or not you can shake the universe itself. If you're infinitely expanding throughout the entirety of the universe without a physical being of any kind, and you have no limit to what you, in terms of your expansion, then you cannot be defeated. And the idea of Zeno being required, in and of itself, is an impressive feat, in and of itself, literally. There's nothing else other than that you can actually debate that on, in my opinion. But perhaps other people might know better than me. And then you have, for example, the manga as to where Zamasu was actually just multiplying. He wasn't infinitely expanding like he was in the anime. He wasn't becoming the universe. So in this instance, it's easier to deal with this version of Zamasu because he has a physical body. Despite him multiplying nonstop, he has physical bodies that can be destroyed, right? The only problem is they multiply after you destroy them. But that comes down to Goku using the Hakai against only Zamasu, and then we can actually see in the anime where Sidra uses Hakai an entire city. So it's like, okay, that just showcases how strong even Sidra is, and we thought that he was the weakest amongst the gods. Yeah. So if you could literally Hakai something in a mass radius, I would like to hope that it's possible in the manga as well, right? Despite Hakai being visually different in the manga. Right. But with that, I would have to assume that Jiren is probably capable of doing the same thing. And if that's the case, the question is, will he be able to Hakai an army of Zamasu? Right. It comes down to the same thing: erasure and removal from existence. Not killing, but more so removal from existence. But I would say the manga iteration of Zamasu, though I feel to be handled extremely better in terms of from a writing standpoint and portrayal, even in terms of power, not in terms of being stronger, but the depiction of that makes it feel like, damn, we're up against an army. You know what I'm saying? As to where the anime was kind of like a cheat code, just for the sake of like giving Trunks the spotlight, but at the same time not hurting his character. But in the manga, we got Goku fighting Zamasu, and that's where the difference is drawn. So with that, I would have to say that I don't even think Jiren could even finish off Zamasu in the manga, and that's only because we haven't seen what Jiren can do in the manga yet. All we know is that he flew from planet to planet. That's it. That's all we know, and that he's stronger than Belmod. That's all we know. I honestly feel indifferent about that. I feel as if Jiren could defeat the army, because considering that in the anime thus far, we don't really know what he's truly capable of. He's been fighting severely suppressed. I mean, he's been fighting at a point where even the other Kai recognize that there's something deeper within him, assuming that the same thing is going to happen in the manga. And I feel like when it comes down to the physical forms of Zamasu, I don't think it should be any problem for Jiren to handle his own in defeating them head on. They were fully immortal in the manga. That's the difference. To an extent, yeah. But I mean, at the same time, like, you have to ask yourself, having to be stronger than even the original, and having to embrace the fact that he's fighting thousands of them, I don't see it to where it's a problem for him to fight one off as easily as he could the entire army. I feel like with ease, if he were to really try, he could start one-shotting, one-offing a bunch of them just with complete ease, similar to how Vegeta used the I think it was the burst gun, or like the Gallic burst, whatever it was, the new technique that he had. He used that and he obliterated a few Zamasus, which created more. But the only difference with the Jiren is I think that he possesses way more power, and with any of his blasts, I think that it'll permanently erase or destroy the ones that he specifically targets. The question is, can he target all of them at once with that one specific attack, and doing that to his advantage? I would say he could, but like I said, even if a Gamma Burst Flash eradicated, because Ki Blast will eradicate you, so even if that was the case, that's the problem. With the manga, they kind of balance out this idea of Zamasu not becoming astral by him being fully immortal. That's the problem. The only reason the anime Zamasu became astral is because only half of him was immortal. So the other half of him became the entire universe. That was the problem. But in the manga, he's 100% immortal. And we're back to square one, where I think it's like it comes down to erasure. If Goku could use a Kai, I would like to say, well, you would have to allow me to assume Jiren is capable of doing the same thing on a much grander scale, considering he's even stronger than Belmod himself. If that's the case, and if you can Kai them, okay, no problem. You're good to go. But if it's not really the case, then Zeno was probably still the best bet to ultimately putting them down for the count indefinite.
Without question, by the very end, I definitely feel, in my personal opinion, that Jiren does possess the necessary skill set and power to destroy Merge Zamasu's body in both the manga and the anime. However, it's very difficult to say about, Zamasu's spiritual influence on the universe, because that's going to require more power than one can even fathom, because it's not just Zamasu as a singular being in one place at one time, but instead having his spirit spread throughout the universe. That's a problem, and I firmly believe that as strong as Jiren is, I think that he may potentially have something up his sleeve that can counter Zamasu's spiritual influence throughout the universe, because as powerful as Jiren is, we don't know what he can truly do, and the skill set that he possesses when his back is up against the wall with no other alternatives left. So I think that in the manga adaptation, seeing Jiren fight multiple copies would be interesting, as I do believe he would destroy them, as opposed to Zamasu's spiritual influence. That's something that I'm gonna have to say I don't think he can actually do anything against. But in the end, I would like to know what you guys have to say down in the comment section below. What are your overall thoughts on Jiren versus Merge Zamasu? You guys can incorporate whichever Zamasu you want, manga Zamasu, anime Zamasu, or both. And what I also want to know from you guys is, how do you guys feel about Jiren versus spiritual Zamasu having to have an influence on the entire universe? Post your comments down below if you guys have missed out the previous what if battles and what if discussions. You guys can find the official playlist for that down in the comment section description below. Thank you all so much for watching, guys. Once again, if you guys are new to this channel and of course love Dragon Ball, don't forget to go on ahead and punch that subscribe button, guys. Turn on all notifications by clicking that bell icon to be notified. If you guys enjoyed and want to see other battles such as this, slap a like down below and comment down below as to what kind of fight you guys want to see next. Thank you all so much for watching, guys. Once again, I will leave a link to my second and third channel down below, Unreal Network, which covers tons of awesome movie discussions and trailer breakdowns, alongside Unreal Vlogs, which covers vlogs and daily workouts. And again, I will also link EmoshIs channel down below. Make sure you guys go on ahead and check him out. Thank you all so much once again, and we'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.